And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, welcome to another episode of It Sure Is a Podcast. We're gonna jump right into it today.
Speed run.
Last week there was no episode because honestly I procrastinated and just kept playing Elden Ring.
You texted me that you're like, "Yeah, we're good if we are you good if we skip this week?" I can't stop playing Elden Ring.
And like you had legitimate stuff going on all week, and I was just like, I'm playing Elden Ring. I'm not putting this down. You can't make me.
Yeah, but after everything that goes on, every once in a while to have those times, it's kind of nice. You're just like, the world doesn't exist. All this video game is all that matters. I'm 13 again. Mom make me some pizza rolls, and I'm just gonna sit here.
Yes, the between that is all that exists. I'm gonna move my mouse off the button because I forgot my mouse again. I just don't want to press something. I'm still wearing my hat, I noticed. I like barged into your house. I'm like, no time to talk. I got stuff to do. Let's go. So we're going to finish up the Warhammer lore. It's more about the characters and races this time. And these are all the, not human races. So quick recap of last episode. We're starting out with talking about the warp, which the warp is kind of this purgatory space hell. And it's just a culmination of everything that is bad or everything that can exist, all exists in this space at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for everybody rolling their eyes, being like, we don't need a recap. The recap's not for you, it's for me, because I have no memory. Thank you.
I have the memory of a goldfish.
I goldfish memory, that's what I tell
I
everybody.
have the memory of a goldfish. Keep repeating it until it's like you remember now. It's like, oh yeah, I finally got it. Okay. So in this warp, chaos, that's kind of what everyone labels everything as in there. Chaos is not necessarily evil, just the warp is a manifestation of everything, good and bad.
It's just like raw power.
Yeah. So then that's why they call it a purgatory, because it has both. But instead of the good and bad just being like a standard out of 1 to 10 scale, it's a, out of 1 to 3 million scale. Everything's amplified. Okay, so let's go over the 4 chaos gods. Khorne. That's the name, Khorne. It's Khorne. It's spelled cool, but it sounds, it's like corn. The yellow kernels you find in your poop.
After all of the other names and everything, there's gonna be like, our god Khorne.
Yeah, and
anticlimactic.
The rest of the names in this list is all of them are very cool. Khorne is just he's Khorne. He's the classic Satan archetype. If you've ever heard the phrase blood for the blood god or skulls for the skull throne, that's what it's in reference to. It's in reference to him. He is the guy all about murder, violence, death, and just battle. He's the god of war. He's the battle man. Okay. And also, before I continue, gather this information, but yes, the Bricky video on the different races in Warhammer 40k was a great help and a great guide. So some of the things I have taken from that, because the way he explained it was just way too funny. Please go watch the video. It's fantastic. Okay, continuing on. Now, what's interesting about the 4 chaos gods, which I forgot to mention, was they aren't specifically just evil. They are kind of more like I guess the great analogy would be a coin. Khorne is a chaos god that believes in honor, survival of the fittest. He will never lie. He'll never stab you in the back. He's not manipulative. If he has a problem, he just says, all right, get your sword. We're going into the arena. We will solve it there.
Yeah, but he's still a god, so you can't really win that fight. It's still a little bit unfair.
But you got to think that, hey, at least he entertains the idea to you. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to entertain the idea.
True, he doesn't. It just makes me laugh because I'm sorry to go with this comparison. He kind of sounds like Hitler. Hitler did a lot of bad stuff, but he didn't kill all the Jews.
Not
And
all.
that sounds like Korn. It's like, well, he just kills a lot of people, but he gives some people a chance.
But yeah, not all of them. So that's that's brownie points, right? I guess.
I understand what you're saying. He's not just a flat out like Diablo style god.
Right. That's just
his
evil.
end goal isn't the end of the world. He just likes fighting.
He really loves fighting.
Like a little bit too much.
A little too much. The next god we have is, I believe his name is Zeech, but it's spelled Tzeentch.
Zanto.
Yeah,
no
so
idea.
I think we're just going to go with Zeech. If I'm mispronouncing it for any Warhammer nerds, I apologize. He's the god of change. Out of all of them, he's the most eldritch. He's always scheming and causing mischief. He's unpredictable. And he's a confusing philosophical lord in a sense where he wants chaos, but he wants a level of peace. And sometimes he will manipulate things to have things go in a certain way. And you're like, oh, this all is really good. Why is he doing all this? And then at the very end, he'll flip over and... Yeah, all right, how would I put it? I guess he's just this embodiment of almost like this unpredictable chaos, kind of like the Joker. Like, he'll like... Because there's been times when Joker's like teamed up with Batman and stuff like that. I'm on a little bit of a Batman kick because I saw the new one, which was excellent, by the way. And he also really likes birds. There's nothing like lore related to that. He just really likes birds.
Huh. I guess I can understand why, though, he would do peace, because... what's an easier thing to change than a peaceful situation? It's incredibly easy to do that.
And the positive side of his coin is that he likes the idea of hope. He, whenever change happens, there's always an element of hope that this change might be for the better. And he does pursue some type of balance and positivity in everything. But it's very difficult to see it when you're in the situation, if that makes sense. He's a bizarre
He sounds like the one I would like the least. He sounds like a very cryptic individual.
Yeah, that's exactly how he's described.
I'm an idiot. I would almost be like, you know what? I'm going to go worship Korn, because at least I know I'm going to die.
Right, I know what I'm getting with this. If you ask a question, he gives you... his response is 2 other questions, and then after...
I hate that. Anybody out there who does that, you're not smart, you're not funny, you're not intelligent, you're just a douche. Don't do that.
All right, go talk to Miyazaki about that in every NPC in the Soulsborne games.
That's like the only element of the Souls games I hate, is how cryptic a lot of that crap is.
My friend was talking to me about it, and he was asking me how many side quests. I'm like, dude, I don't understand how the side quests work. I go in there to play the game, and there's this like small little goat man I find in a bush, and he's like, once upon a time in Stormvale Castle, I took a wicked dump in a bucket, and it smelled of elderberries. And then that was it. That's it. And then you like look it up online, and it's this intricate quest to get this sword to battle this boss later down the line. I'm like, all this goat man told me was he pooped in a bucket. I don't understand.
That is how, if you want to keep your summons alive throughout, like, have you found any of the golden NPC summons on the ground?
No, I don't have the PlayStation Plus, so
you don't need it, because it's not other people. It's computer characters. Like, that are just built into the game.
I have found those ones. Yeah.
Some of those you have to progress. They're actual NPCs in the game, and you can find them. And now I'm going off the Souls games, but you have to progress their storylines in certain ways to have them stay alive, to have them available for future boss fights. That is the only way I beat the first Dark Souls game the first time. I couldn't do it, and then thankfully through this weird glitch I was able to go back and save one of the characters and progress his story enough that I could summon him.
Right.
I was able to crush the Lord Gwyn.
Oh, Lord Gwyn, that's who it was.
Because my playstyle, I tanked everything in the game until I got to him, and I was just too slow. I couldn't keep up, couldn't beat him.
You were fat rolling.
Exactly. But yeah, so Cryptic's not cool.
Cryptic is not cool, because then you have to look up guides. Now, I know one of, on the background of my cell phone is actually a picture of my queen, my maiden, Ronnie. If you can see the lady with the 4 arms and the moon and the butt. Yeah, she's on my back. There's an ending.
She the one who gave you the...
No, that's Melina. She offers you a Honda Accord in the beginning. She sits down at the bonfire. It's like, I offer you an Accord.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Well, I know.
And one of the knights pull up in a Honda Accord, step out, and shamble off.
I was thinking she's the one who gives you the summoning stuff, right?
Yes, yeah, that's
okay.
her. Yep. And there's an ending where you can marry her.
I'm down.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I heard that, I was like,
You just gave me the power to summon like super awesome spirits. I'm down.
The ones I got, it's 2 marionette bowmen where they have 4 arms and 2 of the arms hold the bows, the other 2 put arrows in it. But instead of shooting like slow, they're like they're
just machine gun.
Yeah. So I always call them out, and I just see like a NPC kid filled with arrows. He's like, ah, and it's like it looks like a pincushion by the time he's done.
That's awesome.
All right, back to Warhammer lore. So yeah, Zeech, very cryptic. Nurgle is his name's Nurgle. He's the god of rot, pestilence, and decay, stagnation, and death. He's a huge guy. He infects people with different sicknesses. It's a cesspool. I like to call him Compost Man. It's just his whole goal is like, listen, guys. In the end, we all die. We all become worm food. Let's just get there a little faster, okay? And the positivity he brings is kind of a finality, an end, a peace, right? Because a lot of times souls are going to go into the warp. And who knows what the heck's going to happen in there. He's just like, listen, with me, your soul doesn't go to the warp. Your soul just gone. It just, I offer a finality. Which is sometimes why a lot of, like, people manipulated by the warp and by chaos is like, Nurgle, he ain't so bad.
I've been alive for 6,000 years. I just want to die.
I just want to just take a nap and be some worm food. Is that cool? And Nurgle's like, I got you, bro. Become my compost for my garden.
This is my shit bucket. This is your new bed.
Which is also the shit bucket. It's a 2-in-1 special. And the final god is my personal favorite, Slaanesh. And she has a very intricate backstory. She is the god of pleasure, the sex god, well, it's not strictly sex, but a lot of times it always gets down to sex. She's the god of senses of the body, but they're like amplified to like 100 from a scale of like 1 to 10. They're amplified to 100.
I'm sorry, I just poked the mic and moaned.
Pretty much, that's pretty much what it is. Just like just a simple poke like that would just bring such immense pleasure, almost like the Cenobites.
I just imagine Space Marines are like, we're finally gonna take down a Chaos God, and all she does is like blow him a kiss, and all of them their armor just explodes off.
Explodes off them. And they just have like, well, they don't have. I was gonna say they all have like ripped erections, but they don't have genitalia, so.
She makes them grow it. They're like, what is this?
What is this? What is this appendage?
That is the ultimate torture for them, because they're like, I'm so horny now. What do I do?
So you blue ball them, but they don't have balls.
There's nothing for them to like release it. They're like, yeah,
no.
that would. Ooh, that sounds like hell. All right, I take it back. She's my least favorite.
Yeah,
that
she
is horrifying.
The worst. Yeah, so she's actually all about the excess of emotion. So every emotion is cranked. So if you're having a really bad day, you're having a really bad day. If you're having a good day, you're having the best day. Almost like manic.
What else can go wrong? She's just, hold my beer.
Yeah, she cracked. Yeah. I really hope it picked up that knuckle crack because that was perfect. She just strolls in. She's like, I got this, lads. Let me deal with this.
Lads.
So, also deals in pain and torture. And I was saying earlier, the Cenobites from the Hellraiser horror series. I don't know if you ever got into that. I only watched the first one. The first one's pretty cool. But they were like these eldritch gods that just dealt with like, you want to experience the best pleasure you ever had? Well, you have to experience the worst pain you've ever had. And it was all about solving this little magic, little puzzle box thing. And that's when Hellraiser shows up with all the Pinhead with all the needles in his head. But there were other ones. Yeah. I don't know why I put this, but nipples. All caps. I just wrote nipples on her section. So
I'm assuming if she's a carnal god of pleasure, then there's
just nipples
there's some nipples.
There's some nipples hanging out. A lot of their armor and a lot of their weapons, spikes, whips, the standard BDSM gear. But But the positive side to her is she's the representation of all emotions. So even the good emotion, right? So she represents even the positive emotions, love, all that kind of stuff.
Love, valor, honor. Oh, well, those aren't emotions, but...
But you get the point. You get the point. So the question is, after all those gods, there's a positive side, but there's more of a worse side. Why would you join them? Well, everyone who has access to the warp, which is pretty much everyone in the Imperium of Man, by warping through there, they can be easily swayed. Humans, regular humans, really easy to manipulate because everything's crappy. So, like, you know what? Maybe just... I'll worship a sex god, and get out of work.
I'm starving to death. I've lost 2 out of my 4 children. This war, it's epic. It's just constant war. Yeah, I'm gonna go worship the goddess with 17 boobies. So, that sounds cool to me now. An
odd number? So there's just there's a brogue
just
one,
a random one,
on hanging off the shoulder. Yeah. So I'm going to run through the list of the different chapters of Chaos Space Marines, because of course you have the regular Space Marines and all their chapters, and then you have the Chaos Marines and all their chapters. Emperor's Children, who are really into just drugs and torturing people. Iron Warriors, they're all about kind of, honestly, just fortifying and just strengthening themselves and just becoming this immovable force. Night Lords, they like to terrorizing, terrorizing, and terrorism. This is almost like a Tinder profile. Oh, hi, I'm the Night Lord. I love terror, terrorizing, and terrorism. Also long walks on the beach, and I love to go on adventures, which I still don't understand what that means. I've asked the ladies, what does that mean? And it's usually like going somewhere new. I'm like, well, what's new to you? And they go, I don't know. And then I'm just mad. Because we've made no progress.
Like, well, we live in blank. Have you done everything in blank? Yeah. Well, then an adventure would be outside of blank, wouldn't it?
Just go over the, state line. There, adventure.
That's it. Just cross the line. We're going back now. That was an adventure.
Yeah. We cross over just because there's always...
Details are important.
There's always that one restaurant that everyone talks about that's just over your state line. That would one restaurant, oh my gosh, it's so good. So you go over that state line and go there. And
you drive an hour and a half just to go to this restaurant.
And you go there and it's garbage.
Yeah.
There's the one that's, right outside of our state line that's just complete ass. It tastes
I don't know
terrible.
The one you're talking about, but there also could be so many.
It involves birds that Benjamin Franklin liked, and it also involved a burger made out of that.
Okay, I think I know, but yeah, I
like leaving the crypt. I just pulled off a Zeech or a Dark Souls NPC giving you a cryptic message.
You can just see the light die in my eyes. I'm like, God, I don't want to have to think about. But anyway, yeah, you could go to your Taco Bell and get. The food's just as good, way cheaper.
Just as good and honestly probably better, honestly. We have the World Eaters, run by Angron, who, my favorite part about him is he is just a mad dude. He's mad about everything. He's full of hate.
Incel.
He's an incel. He actually, canonically, had parts of his brain removed that didn't make him angry. So if there's a part of the brain that's supposed to deliver chemicals to calm you down in anger, he's like, take those out. I only want anger.
Dang, he should hook up with what's her name? the anger goddess.
Oh,
or emotional goddess.
Yeah, I already got to go back. Slaanesh, I think. Slaanesh. Yep, go to Slaanesh. They would have a party. There's Deathgar. There's Warg Bearers, which. Yeah. Black Legion, Alpha Legion, and then 1,000 Suns, which are all Egyptian themed. All those other ones, they didn't really have any particular interesting...
These are groups, correct?
Groups, yeah. Okay, they're all Space Marines, but they're Chaos Space Marines. Mm-hmm. And usually whenever that happens, they're still in the armor, but their face might just not be a face. It might just be behind their head is a giant Windows Macintosh. Did I say Windows Macintosh? I just combined two, but we'll go with it.
I mean, it's the Chaos Space Marine. It could be anything.
It's just one of those like massive Macintosh computers from school with the different colored back, and it was like the monitor. You know what I'm talking about? The button in the middle, turn it on. That with a face just like hot glued across the screen, and they're just like, I am a space marine. Let me give you a quote. What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpses of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err or they fall to heresy. All who join our cause, every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp, and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their dicks. That's not actually... On the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, but grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more. So that's just a statement.
I mean, I kind of agree, because like humans kind of suck in this world, it seems like.
Yes.
Like the only good ones, like worth anything, appear to be manufactured, not even real humans.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, for everyone they recruit, that's a soldier the humans lose. So I feel like it's a losing battle. Like, is there ever an end to this universe?
No, it's just a constant cycle, and we'll get into some...
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said, like, canonically. But I guess if it's still going, no, the story's still being written.
Yeah, it's more just set up as a universe, and there's so many different writers and creative minds that add things to the universe. Like, I'm going to talk about the one book I read, The Devastation of Baal, a little later, that, you know, all the books are written by different people, but they have the framework, and since it's just war, it's like, you can't necessarily canonically do anything wrong as long as you keep just the
core
races
concepts.
And yes, the core concepts, and, you know, don't retcon any like race traits. You can do whatever you want, and that's what I think is pretty cool, because you can have different perspectives. So the idea of chaos, it's unkillable. Every soul returns to the every soul does go to the warp, but if you die not to chaos, I mean, you just kind of go to the warp and they don't really bother you, but chaos souls return to the warp, and they return in some way. So if you give yourself to chaos, pretty much you are just a lad who is just gonna be just coming back and back every time you're killed in some way.
Just like the Daedra.
Just like the Daedra. So let's talk about our first fantasy race that is not a demon lord or a human.
Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for.
The Eldar. These are the Elves, okay?
Oh, you know, in such a messed up universe, and how canonically in any genre ever, Elves are always a mistreated people, or they're a dying people. Their empire is gone. I cannot wait to see what bloodthirsty crap happens.
You figured out, you already called it out with the latter of your statement of them being dying out, and there's a reason for that. So the Elves they're ancient. Them and the Orcs are kind of one of the first races in just the Warhammer universe. They are technologically advanced, but accidentally created Slaanesh. So the Elves, the Eldar, I'm just going to be calling them Eldar from here on out. They are a race that all of their senses are a little heightened. Right, so let's just say a regular person, you have your base level senses, you know, touch, hearing, taste. Theirs are amplified a little bit. So like, you go to Taco Bell when you're stoned and drunk at 2 a.m. and you get some burritos, and it is the best thing you've ever tasted, right? Like, you're taking some bites and you're popping a chub, and that little bit of pre is just wetting your boxers. Like that, okay? So imagine...
God damn, you need to write fan fiction.
Maybe I should, honestly. I really should make erotic novels. There's a market for it. I could probably do it. So with the Eldar, if they were in that same situation, they would take a bite. They would full on climax. Like, they would get goosebumps. Their nipples would become hard. The person next to them, regardless of gender, they would just start going to Pound Town while eating these burritos. That is the difference of the sensation that they receive.
Taco Bell, please sponsor us. We will help you direct a commercial and capture that. But that is a very good explanation.
I only imagine just a commercial, just like a car pulls up, the window rolls down, there's like bottles of alcohol in hand, and just smoke billows out of the car window, and they're like, can I get 5 chicken burritos and 2 of the beefy burritos? And the person's like, yeah, it'll be this much. They pull up, they break their mirror off getting too close to the wall, and they're like, they get their food, they park in the parking lot, and it just becomes almost like even better. It's like what it feels like to chew 5 gum. What it feels like to get Taco Bell.
I just feel like that would be like the normal standard human, and then
that's
there's just
the normal standard human.
Then there's just a clean cut Eldar comes up, orders the food, pulls up next to him, and like you see the smoke billowing out. Well, the Eldar's like, I've never had this before. What is this earthly concoction? Takes a bite, immediately just white liquid explodes out of the car. It's like dripping out.
Or like as in like they pull the window up and they just park into a spot and they're sitting there and it's like, I will try this human delicacy. Takes a bite. It's a shot of outside the vehicle. It's like a bomb went off in there, but it's all
that's
white.
What I'm thinking.
It's just like poof. And they like both of them come out and they're like, ah! Like
just rolling on the ground. Like, are you having a seizure? He's like, no, I can't stop.
I can't stop. I'm going to be.
Ew! It's like a fire hydrant.
And the Eldar was like, please, get me water.
Kill me.
I'll be dehydrated from all this ejaculation. Ah! And
it's like, too much. Just kill me.
Shriveling up like a raisin in front of these people's eyes. Or like that guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark when he melts. He's like, ah! And like the
just
guy...
mummified immediately. Just... well, why is he smiling?
And the guy at the Taco Bell drive-thru is just like, I need to stop working night shift.
yeah, he's like, God, I hate third shift.
Third shift's the worst. We get all the weirdos. Yeah. So okay, that is how the Eldar receive their sense, stimulation. Okay.
Just way too intense.
So slowly over time, they kind of became numb to the senses, and they kept pushing it to a level of like almost like debauchery. Like everything that would satisfy a sense, it would not be like, oh, I'm just going to watch, going to go on to the Pornhub. I'm just going to watch 2 people do it. No, they got to the point where like, I want people getting whipped. I want someone getting in a chokehold in the background. I want someone spread eagle getting, Campbell's chicken noodle soup poured into their butthole. Like, and then just keep escalating from there. That's...
I'm trying to think
how their society
what's that Netflix show about the kids going through puberty? I am drawing a blank. It's got the hormone monster.
The Big Mouth?
Yes, it was Big Mouth. Did you ever watch?
No,
you
talked
didn't like
about it.
Yeah,
and it wasn't my thing.
There's an episode where he discovers internet porn, and like it's in the morning. They're like, "Why are you watching mature pissing?" He's like, because the regular young people pissing wasn't doing it for me anymore. And you're just like, when did you get on to pissing?
That's pretty much hilarious. What their whole society like devolved into, was just, we can't feel these emotions anymore as much as we used to, so we are just going to go to debauchery. So everything is amplified, and their debauchery, what led to this debauchery was that they were so advanced, they solved all the problems. All the problems that we humans have, they solved. There was a system that worked perfectly. Everyone was comfortable. And long story short, they got bored. So they're just like,
idle
what?
Hands.
We're just gonna get a little wild, a little crazy. We're going over to the Smiths today. We're gonna have a crazy orgy.
Some cocaine.
Yeah. Becky got cocaine. Sex and drugs became rampant in their culture. And honestly, they even like kind of expanded that into their war methods. Like they would take POWs and they would just be like, all right, what do you want? The torture, or do you want the, intercourse first? And they're just like, the intercourse. So they like strap them up, and a bunch of like busty, beautiful Latina Eldars are coming up, and they're just like whacking these dudes off, or girls, whatever. And they're like, oh, this is great. And then they just start beating them for days. And there's even like in the world where there's like entire dimensions that like Slaanesh has invented just to feed that emotion, where she just throws people into, and that is just every day, all day, 24/7 IHOP big titty goth waitress. Like, I'm really getting into these. Like, here's the fun thing about me I've learned over my years. In the morning, right after I take my medicine, I am so hyper focused, and then by the end of the day, you got nothing from me. I'm useless.
You just lived the lifespan of the Eldar.
I do.
You're like, I can't feel anything anymore. It's been you've been awake for 14 hours. It's okay. It's too much.
My senses, overwhelming. So, yeah, so the Eldar slowly became just very, and obviously within that, like, they're not doing it to pleasure the people. Like, then they just start raping, like, entire, like,
oh, yeah, I figured
like,
that would be, like,
yeah.
we're going to start a war with you so we can literally just rape everyone.
Yes. So, after all of this nonsense, the god Slaanesh was born. She just kind of came into existence because...
She's a tulpa? They literally just willed her into existence with such a strong...
Because they were so horny. They were so horny on Maine, they willed her into existence.
Please help us.
I wish that was something I could do, because there would be a lot of furry, busty goth... IHOP waitress gods being willed into existence.
A lot of planks hopping around.
A lot of planks hopping around. Just a lot of smash.
That's a callback.
Yeah, if you missed the smash or pass, you need that was a good one. I actually had some friends follow along who listened to the podcast, and they were telling me, it's like, yeah, I probably smash all the ones, but I would smash this one over that one. And my one friend, she was describing about plank, how it's like, what you would do is just whittle it down into like some kind of like butt plug or dildo and use it. I'm like, I did not even think of that. That would be like,
I feel like that
awesome.
would be killing it though. If it's a sentient thing, that would cause it pain.
But if
trying
it's not sentient, like it's just a plank of wood, that's what you would do.
Fair. I definitely felt weird after that episode, because I'm like, man, I feel like I'm a little bit sexually attracted to xenomorphs now. I was like, I really wonder what that tongue did.
My friend sent me an image of because right now I've been DMing a it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but you play as, kids, and you have one like Digimon with you, right? And they create their own monsters and stuff. So I've been DMing that, and he messaged me. I just got to get the perfect wording of it because it's just fantastic. Oh, it says like it says DM. You know what? Fuck you. The Xenosith shows up, and they're like, wait, what? And it's a xenomorph mixed with a Sith Lord. But I'm not gonna lie, it kind of hot with those curves though. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I highly enjoy that. That is awesome. I love that image.
Can you imagine how scary that would be as a Sith?
A Xenosith?
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying.
Okay, I got us off topic with my weird kinks.
With the weird kinks of Xenosith. So, alright, so they willed her into existence, and she like actually ripped a hole in the fabric of reality. And this, I have it written here. Also, called the Eye of Terror. That's what it's called. And I kid you not. You know what the Eldar call her? She who thirsts.
Well, I mean, she thirsty. I feel like she called her own, lady bits the Eye of Terror. The Eye of Terror. It's like, come to me, embrace the Eye of Terror. Like, leans back, lifts up the legs, and Eye of Sauron, like, oh! And you're just, like, sitting there like, oh! I can't deny it. You're sitting there screaming like Frodo when he's seeing the Eye of Sauron, but you're unzipping your pants and dropping them like, oh! Screaming the whole time. I love the jokes. Sauron just needed the ring back because it was his cock ring.
That's all I need. He's just like, he said like,
I haven't been laid in 10,000 years. Give me back my ring.
That's the whole reason he did this whole thing was for that purpose. He's just like, just give it back, dude. And Frodo's like, no, I'm a Baptist and you shouldn't have one of these. Lord of the Rings. Boom. Yep, when my medicine's working, I'm a little saucy. So, all right, after this, the Eye of Terror was ripped open into the universe. All the current Eldar who were all about debauchery, over 90%, in that instant, their souls were ripped out of them and fed to Slaanesh. Like, it was just in an instant when this fabric of reality opened, all their souls were ripped out. Now, before this, a large portion, it was kind of half and half. The Eldar were like, yeah, horny on main. The Craft World Eldar, which they call themselves, were like, you guys are nuts, we're leaving. So they created Craft Worlds, which were like ships the size of continents that were entire worlds housed within a ship. They're technologically advanced, so they're like self-sufficient. And they were so far away that they were not, affected by this event. So, moving on from that, there's the Dark Eldar, which are the Drukhari, which I'm not 100% sure if they are the same or if they are a little different than the Craft World Eldar. I kind of think they kind of descended into this group of Eldar. So, here, let me read a quote. One before I read the quote. All the Eldar, though, were just slightly touched by Slaanesh. So, it's not the warp that's manipulating them. It is just Slaanesh. Like, everyone, if you're an Eldar, you have a little bit of horny. You have a little bit of Slaanesh, like, just reaching out for you. Just like, hey.
So that's their temptation to chaos, basically.
Yes,
is her.
That is their temptation to come into chaos. Because before all this, they were they had a mental fortitude that couldn't be broken, like the priestess of battle or whatever they're called, the ladies who drop church from orbit.
It's still so awesome.
I love that. They're my favorite. So here's the quote. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows, this time to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the center, at the ancient crone world. I don't know where center came from. A conflict that likes of which has not been seen since the Mon-Kai warred amongst themselves, and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son, is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. Alright, here's what's throwing me off. My font on here is all black, but some of the words are slightly a little red, and my brain is like, why are they red? Why are they red? Why are they red? And it's overriding me trying to read. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Mon-Kai, and though their wars do not concern me, and I would gladly let them destroy one another, I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom. And though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. So pretty much this is wrapping up that all the Eldar are screwed. They know they're just going to get wiped out because, it's not, I might get tempted by chaos or I might get tempted by Slaanesh. It's, I'm going to be tempted and I'm going to go over there. When's it going to happen? I believe Mon-Kai is a slur for either human or like anything that is an Eldar. I could be wrong in that. But Eldar, they're mostly psychers. Let's talk about another group of Eldar that kind of broke off from, during the time, but it wasn't really, how do I put it? They broke off, but it wasn't really recorded and it was just kind of added in later on. The Harlequins. They're a race of Eldar, but they're just really demonic clown performers. They like death, but they like to do death spectacularly. So, like, whenever Harlequins show up, like, the circus shows up the town. So, just imagine all these giant, grandeur spaceships. And then just the Harlequins are just circus tents, Ferris wheels, balloons. And they just show up and they're just like, The circus come to town, bitches! Hey, gamer. I'm just taking a second to check in on you. You see, the last time your mom and I were hanging out, she may have subtly dropped the hint that you're not really sure how to support the podcast. And honestly, when I walked out of her room only wearing a bath towel and we locked eyes, I could see it on your face. There's quite a few ways you can support the podcast. You can find us on Twitter at sure_podcast, over on Instagram, it sure is a podcast, YouTube, and TikTok. It sure is a podcast. That's all you gotta look up. And then TikTok is for you Zoomers out there, because I post some real stupid shit there. For Eric and I, you listening is probably just one of the best things in the world. But if you do want to support us, those are ways you can. Also, just tell a friend that, hey, we listened to a terrible podcast. You should hop in on this. Also, if you want to support us monetarily, whatever one that makes you give us money, you can go on over to www.buymeacoffee.com/ISIA podcast. There you can drop us a few bucks and be on your way. But like I said earlier, just you guys listening is really enough for us.
I'm just imagining them on a trapeze and just dropping people and laughing maniacally.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. They do not belong to any Elder group, but they're technically Eldar. They guard the Black Library, which is a place of endless knowledge. And in there, they worship... Alright, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Cegorach.
Segorach?
Yes. That sounds close, and it triggered something in my brain, like Segorach or Kegorach or... Kegarak. Yeah, just go with, something. That's what is... We won't mention him again, because we're going to butcher it. But he's considered the laughing god. And somehow they escaped Slaanesh entirely. They don't even have the temptation. No one knows how. Some believe that it's the god they worship. Like, I got you guys. I'll protect you.
That's probably like, if you want to be maniacal clown killers, like, I'll stop you from getting tempted.
Yeah, you want to be part of the insane clown posse? I got you. I got you, buddy.
That's kind of like a... Do you want to experience the highest highs and lowest lows, or do you want to be a killer clown?
Both are tempting.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I feel like that killer clown, you could still get those, but you just have to be a clown, so you have to do weird clown stuff. Like, fold your dick into a balloon animal.
I mean, if it doesn't hurt, like...
That's true. That's true. So let's talk about my favorite next to orcs and the battle priestess, or whatever they're called, which is really bad. I already forgot them. The Tyranids. They're space bugs.
Ugh.
They look like Zerg, right? From Starcraft. They act like Zerg because originally Starcraft was actually going to be a Warhammer game before the licensing and such kind of fell through. So Blizzard was in charge of making a Warhammer, RTS. And the licensing, the agreement fell through, so they had all these assets and the game was about done. They're like, all right, we're just going to make our own game. That's why the Terrans in StarCraft, that's why the Zerg, that's why the, I forget what the other guys are called. The blue people with the, like, they talk, but they don't have a mouth. Their jaw moves, but they don't have a mouth, which is weird.
I don't think I ever played StarCraft.
It's a computer RTS. A lot of people just know of it, but I've
definitely heard of it.
Yeah, that's why a lot of the alien races in that game look like that, because of that falling through. They are just giant bugs, giant infestation of just massive proportions. They function in a hive mind, and they're simple. They're just bugs that just want to eat everything and consume it into biomass. So you could even be like, it's the Flood from Halo. It's you're the Mass Effect guy. Did the Reapers want to do that? Wasn't there a race in there that kind of wanted just to turn everything into it? Or
the Reapers wanted to basically kill all life, intelligent life in the galaxy, so younger life could flourish. So It's
okay.
that like that. So that's why humans got spared the first time because we were all stupid when they came, and they're like, oh, well, now you're traveling the stars. Time to die.
That's
'Cause
why
you're gonna
ignorance is bliss.
Exactly. I can't.
I'm trying to think of any other game that does that because I know the Flood. The Flood's purpose is just to consume
they're just
all
like a
organic
virus.
life.
They're like, yeah, they just want to spread. There's other. I know there are other things. I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
But I mean, we got the hate. We got one example. That's what I was looking for. They just want to kill and eat all. Now, what's super interesting is that the Tyranids have an access to the warp, and they have a network within the warp. And Tyranids in the warp, what's so funny is that they pose enough of a threat to be a threat to everything outside of the warp, but not enough in the warp to have the gods do anything. They're just like to the gods, they're like spiders or houseflies. They're like, let them do their thing. I don't care. I'm Corn. I'm sitting here getting ready for a battle against my wife because I'm just really mad today that she burnt the meatloaf.
So this is also giving me a quick question. If the Chaos people are always trying to fight humans and the warp just kind of takes you wherever, couldn't they just like warp down onto the planet real quick and start messing everything up?
Are you talking like Chaos just warps right to like...
Yeah,
like
just right onto a
just
planet.
Right onto a planet. That I don't have that intricate knowledge. I feel like there's some limits to the warp that isn't being explained. Like only ships can do it.
Well, and that's what I was thinking is like you could just warp your armada
onto a thing,
like right into the atmosphere and then land. And or my apologies to anybody who knows this. Am I being a moron like Lord of the Rings, where everybody? I hate the question. Why didn't they just fly the eagles to Mordor? There are plenty of reasons why they didn't do it, and I'm not rehashing it here. So if that's that type of question, I apologize.
It might be that. I honestly don't really know. But that is a good question. I just
feel like the Chaos people are way stronger than the humans. I guess my whole point is I don't understand how humans are still holding their ground.
Well, it's like how do I put it? Like, yeah, the Chaos Marines do get some powers, but they don't become gods. They're just worshiping a god. And like,
I even mean just like numbers wise. I feel like the Orcs, clearly that's how they are able to fight, is there's just so many of them.
And we will get to the Orcs, and I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, so the Tyranids, they have ways to cut off access to the warp. So humans also, which I didn't really explain, that is how they communicate. They use the warp to communicate with other places. So instead of like using, long-range transmission, they send a message to the warp. The Tyranids have the methods to cut off, like, they pretty much a signal jam. And in the book I read that I talked about long time ago on the podcast, it was Devastation on Ball. Very good book, but it was the audiobook. The guy didn't read it that great.
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
He would just cut off the last sentence, but it was a great book. And what happened was Ball, right? All these Space Marines from these chapters were showing up here because all of a sudden they couldn't contact through the warp, and they're just like, well, we got Tyranids. All right, let's go. And they're just like, they're all coming to Ball. And Ball is I think it's one of the Crimson chapters, is the birth home of one of them. So, like, all of them are coming back to defend it. And this, at the beginning of the book, that's what happens. They cut off communication. So they're like, we don't have any reinforcements than what we can reach out here. So let's hope.
Yeah, let's just consolidate.
And also with the, all right, that's the next part. All right, I'm not going to cut that off. And yeah, and like the whole purpose of the Tyranid attacking Ball in the book was to get a kind of I guess it would be like a base of operation for their next campaign into wherever else in the Milky Way. Now, here's the interesting thing that I have to throw out there about the Tyranids. They are not native to the galaxy Warhammer takes place in. They are coming from outside the galaxy. They are entering in from galaxies. So you're like, oh, it's just a galaxy over here. If you're looking at a galaxy map of like the Milky Way, you look to the right, it's like, oh, they're only coming from the right. No. Tyranids have invaded from the right, the left, the north, the south, the northeast, the northwest, the southeast, the southwest.
Everyone else is worried about like conquering solar systems and planets, and the Tyranids are just like, yo, we conquer galaxies. That's a little frightening because that means there's a lot of them.
It's not confirmed, like, their origin, but that's just, they leave you with that hint. They're like, they're coming from somewhere else. And if they're coming from somewhere
from dark space.
Yeah, like, they won all those battles, and they're coming here because at first they're like, oh, they're just coming from here, so we'll put our defenses here. And then they're like, oh, we have reports on the other side of the galaxy that they're coming from over there. And they're like, okay, they did not, circle around and go, they're coming from somewhere else.
Everybody's just like, oh, crap.
Yes. So Tyranids are super intelligent, but like all the forces have been able to try to like push them, like keep them at bay, but eventually that wall's going to break. So there's a variety of Tyranids. Tyranids are unaffected by any kind of biological warfare. They have very strong armor, and at one point in the devastation of Baal, there was there's giant hive ships that will fly down, and they'll just spit and vomit stuff down onto the planet. Whether it's Tyranids or, in this case, there's a section in the book where they're holding this line in the desert, and they just wiped out all these Tyranids that were coming at them, and they're sitting there hold your ground. All of a sudden they're like, incoming projectiles, so they all get ready, and all they just shot down is just this biomass and just this gunk and body parts, and what the hell? And then all the Tyranids, all the little remains of Tyranids just started picking at it real quick, and then started to put themselves back together, and they kind of transformed into something they were using plasma weapons. All right, with this biomass, we're going to evolve just real quick evolution. We're going to get ourselves armor that is resistant to laser rifle.
That's not fair.
And then
that's just not fair.
And then at that point, the guy was just like, "All right," puts his gun away, pulls out the chainsaw. It's like, "We're cutting through him," and everyone's like, "Woo!"
Space Marine, bro.
Yeah, that is exactly what I would want the Space Marines all to act, but they're all so proper. They're not the meatheads that everyone sci-fi, the Aliens franchise, for example.
Yeah, but man,
all those
it would
Marines
be
are
funny if it
"Oorah, the ashes, oorah!"
Yeah.
These Space Marines are so cordial. I would love if they're just
we will cut our way through for afternoon tea.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so yes.
Y'all need some Slanesh in your life.
Yeah, all you need is some Slanesh. So that's the Tyranids. Honestly, they're not that interesting just because they're simple. I mean, they're super interesting, but there's no extended lore.
Are they humanoid, or are they actually just like bugs?
They're just bugs.
Okay.
They're just bugs. However, they have a humanoid counterpart called a Gene Stealer cult. It's just a Gene Stealer, but they call it Gene Stealer cult. And what they do is they kind of send little bugs to infect a society, and then slowly over time, all the people start to transform and kind of be humanoid bugs, and just we got to worship the hive and protect the hive.
Kind of like servants, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They're like secret agents that they will plant into societies, and that's the book, the Warhammer book that I want to read. I think it's called Xenos. Or Xeno something. And what it is, it's about a Inquisitor. They found a gene, they're suspect of a gene stealer on this planet, but they don't know where. And it's just a giant thriller mystery of trying to find out who the gene stealer is and to prevent them from spreading. Which, like I said, in this kind of universe, you can kind of do all sorts of different types of stories in genres. All right, let's get to the Orcs. The Orcs, my favorite, called Greenskins. They use archaic weapons, big teeth. There's so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over everything is just due to infighting, because they're very simple. The biggest orc leads. Whoever biggest orc, he's in charge. If you want to become biggest orc, fight biggest orc. If you kill biggest orc, then you're in charge.
Well, that was kind of what they did a little bit in the game too, is because they're the orcs are still they're winning. Because the big orc was there, and he had the slightest amount of intelligence.
Yeah,
he was just yeah, there's billions of us. I can, as long as I can keep him in line, we're gonna win. But then you kill him, and then that's when they all just kind of scatter and run away.
Yeah, they scatter, and just because they don't have a leader. And the funniest thing about all the orcs is, and you saw it a lot in Space Marine. I'm actually almost done with the game. It's such a good game.
Did you get the hammer yet?
Oh, yeah.
God, I love that hammer.
I'm just using the hammer, making everyone just turn into red mist.
Yes.
With that, they all have a very they're very dopey, but very deep British accents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, that's an interesting choice of voice actors.
Uh-huh. They're just the deep voice, it's "Oh, I'm the biggest orc. You can't beat me, Space Marine." And that's pretty much how.
That was a really good impression.
That's pretty much how they sound. They're always "Space Marine." And then you'll hear
That's
them...
actually every time when they found out, Space Marines, get them!
And,
It's like, what?
Alright, so remember in the game those little green goblin guys, the little guys with the little shivs, right?
Yeah.
They... The one thing I noticed, I was looking through just some concept art, that they actually had this massive cannon where they were stuffing those green guys into, the little ones, and shooting them over this city's walls. They're like, we can deflect all their weaponry. So they're like, okay. So they get these, and I looked it up.
Yeet the goblins.
Yeah, that's what they did. They yeeted the goblins into this fort. And the goblins were eventually able, they fired so many, it's like, some of them have to survive, right? So then they like opened up the doors and started causing mischief enough that they could push on and get through this.
I'm not gonna lie, I take it back. I think I agree with you. Orcs might be my favorite.
And the thing was, it was like a giant like anti-air gun, and I did a little research.
We shot a million of them, at least 2 of them got to get through.
The thing shot like a machine gun. It wasn't like slow firing.
It wasn't just one.
Dum, 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 dum. And just these goblins are just flying through, and they're stuffing them in as fast as they can.
Just imagine all the goblins are like, yeah!
They're just super excited about it, and they're like, yeah, let's go! Yeah, they're just, and the thing is, they're so simple that they willingly do that because they wake up, they're like Conan. They eat, they sleep, they fight, they fuck. That is what they do. That is
There's
all
no
they
government
do.
structure, it's just
No, whoever big orc rules.
Big orc make law.
So they're just like all these different like clans, but they all like eventually will like, if they all can find a common enemy, they're just like, alright, we're putting our guns down. Alright, we're putting the swords down. Let's go get them. Let's go fight them.
Well, we gotta pick the swords and guns back up. But yeah, we're gonna go fight them.
They put their swords down like, we have a truce. And then they go run to fight and leave their weapons there.
Big orcs in the back like, oh no.
Oh no. And he's like, why? Get your weapons! And they all stop like the charge, and the Space Marines are like, what are they doing? Are they playing something? And they all turn around and run away. And then they come back with weapons.
And they're shooting.
And that
why Big Orc, good leader.
That's why Big Orc, best leader. And that's why they're the comic relief. They're just goofy, but they're like so savage.
But
too.
they're also so deadly.
They are.
They just wiped out in the game. When you land on the planet, they've just killed millions of people.
They really have. Okay, here's a quote from one of the Imperial people. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the Orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? Because, alright, so let's get back to the, what I talked about last time was they slap machines together. They believe it will work, therefore it works.
You made a goblin machine gun and it worked.
It worked. Alright, Bricky in his video did a fantastic analogy for it, and I'm going to try to repeat it to the best of my ability. So, they're, a big orc and a bunch of orcs are on a Mad Max style car, and they're driving, right? They're driving around, and they're all into whatever they're doing, and all of a sudden the car stops working. And they're just like, oh! We can't get Space Marines if we're stuck. So another orc hops out, looks, he's like, the gas tank is empty. Big orc says, no, I filled it this morning. Car starts up again. Orc's like, fixed itself. Hops in. They drive. They keep going. Now the thing was, probably no one filled the gas tank, but just because he said, no, I did it, it worked because they believed it worked. One of those orcs believed that commander, and that's why it worked. They love to paint things red because they think it makes things go faster. They like to paint things purple because that's the sneaky color.
They're 4-year-olds. They're just children.
The thing is, ask the question, have you ever seen a purple orc? That's fucking right. That's why it's the sneaky color. That is why it is the sneaky color, because you've never seen a purple orc. You've seen every other color orc, but not a purple one.
Oh my gosh.
Like their assassins are in purple. Because they think they're sneaky. Oh, alright, we're almost done. The orcs originally were called Krorks, and they're as ancient as the Eldars. But over time, and this happens with the next race we're going to talk about, they kind of changed their name just because there was such a shift in how they were, right? Orcs used to be brilliant. They used to be intelligent. But over time, they became stupid and dumb with all their war.
Over time, Sauron corrupted the Eldar.
Yeah.
And they became orcs.
Yeah, no, not the Eldar. Just the
I know I'm mixing two. I'm sorry, guys. I was mixing two different things.
The Krorks. That's what they use. I think that's how it's pronounced. That's what they used to be called. Now they're just orcs. Oh, funny thing. Orc word for war is war.
Just take the R off and scream it.
So when you play Space Marine, why do you wonder when they charge at you and go war? They're screaming war. But you're just
Space Marine war.
Yeah, that is exactly what they're doing. All right, second to last, the Necrons, spooky, scary space skeletons, kind of undead space Egyptian. They used to be called the Necron tier. And they lived really crummy lives. Just the planet they were on, full of toxins, full of different radiations. And pretty much they just struggled to survive. Now, they were able to advance, but like their bodies were frail. They had to have all these machines hooked up to them at all times just to live. So eventually they found out these beings they called the Old Ones, right? Omnipotent beings. They were looking for immortality, so they go to the Old Ones and say, hey, do you know anything about immortality? They're like, why, yes, we're immortal. We've been immortal for many years. Well, I mean, millennia. Years makes it sound like it's only like 2 years. We were immortal for 2 years. So they were like, can you teach us? And they're like, no, because immortality is actually pretty not cool. So they decided to wage war.
I figured that was coming.
Because they didn't want to share their secrets. You know, fine, keep your secrets. And then they waged war on them. So out of spite, they waged war. And this is called, referenced, the War in Heaven. That's what the campaign was called. And during this time, they actually discovered the star gods, which were the, I think it's the Catan. It's C-T-A-N. So they talked to him like, yo, these old ones, they're not passing the vibe check, and they really don't want us to be immortal. But dude, if I'm immortal, I get to slay so much puss and just grab so much gash that I just want to be immortal. So the Catan were like, we know their secrets, and we know how to make you immortal. Let's team up. And they're like, yeah, sure, dude. Yeah, whatever, vibe check. So I'm just trying to relate to the Gen Z guys. So... Talk about gash.
I'm sitting over here looking at him like, what?
What are you saying? So they made a deal with them, but it turned out to be some type of horrendous trap. Where in that
whoever would have guessed?
I know, whoever thought. So their souls, in a very similar fashion to Slaanesh, were ripped out of their bodies immediately, and they were replaced with these metal exoskeleton things. And they're just like, all right, you fight for us now. Mm-hmm. And they're technically immortal. You know, they don't die of like disease or anything. They can be killed, but
they gotta kind of be smashed.
They gotta be smashed. All right, very last race. Toward the end, I started getting less and less info because I could go deep into this, but I was just like, when I was writing a script, I'm just like, I'm done. This is a lot of Warhammer to take in.
This is so many.
And like the Bricky video, like I said, Bricky, check him out. There's good humor to it, good stuff. Very clear and concise, very good if you're interested in this. And then expand from there. I do recommend reading The Devastation of Baal. Very good book. And it talks a lot about Tyranids and kind of the structure. Like in the book, I distinctly remember there's one time when they have a piece of an old god, like in this like chamber that like this guy has to get like 30 security clearances to go down into. And he asks what the Tyranids are doing. And I'm trying to remember if it's just like a piece of flesh with a face on it that they just hang like in the closet and it just opens it up. I'm trying to remember, but it was something that equivalent, so tiny and just like a piece of a god. And they're just like, what are the Tyranids up to? And the god's like, chaos is pretty cool, right? And it's like, I'm asking what the Tyranids up to. And eventually after this whole discussion, he's like, they just want to make this, a giant place where they can breed. So don't let that happen. And the guy's like, thanks, bro. They high five, even though he does have a hand, he leaves. So the last people were talking about is the Taw Empire. So the Taw Empire, they were discovered by humans, but it was very similar to the Reapers when they found them. It's like, oh, they're underdeveloped, they're stupid, they have sticks, we're leaving them alone. So they just go on their merry way. A warp storm occurred near their planet, and this kind of changed everything. Some people speculate that it was like they were given this knowledge on how to technologically advance themselves. And when this happened, instead of fighting amongst themselves, they united as this complete front and became incredibly technologically advanced.
See, if humans could do this, we could be like galaxy conquering jerks.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to fight each other. If we all band together, we can fight other things.
We can band together and fight other enemies. And they work for the greater good. Whatever that is, it's kind of a religious philosophy they all follow. They're like the Covenant from Halo. They'll invite any race into their banner. And there's like, there's not really any orcs. There's only like a few notes of like orcs, like they were smarter orcs, and they're like, oh, the greater good sounds pretty good, you know, so they joined. But it was like other races, there's Space Marines, human, like they're all welcome. Yeah, they're welcome as long as you embrace the greater good and do everything for that. So
better the Dragon Age, the Kunari.
Yeah, the Kunari. Like, you can join their ranks as long as you
just have to hold that belief's cool.
Yeah, as long as you hold the belief. Nothing wrong with that. All species can join the greater good. And they're just like they're really like technologically advanced. Because like, everything in the universe is kind of almost steampunky or industrial, and these are the only ones that like have like the Covenant type of weapons, where it's like flying ships that like
they actually understand.
Beams. Yes, exactly.
And they're like, yeah, if ours break, we can fix it.
Now there was one part I did miss talking about. I gotta go back and look.
Quick question, just on the Taw Empire or whatever they were. Are they as technologically advanced as the Eldar? Or did they kind of...
or a little ahead of? I'm trying to find... Here it is. I forgot this part about the Eldar. So the Eldar don't necessarily use the warp because of their fear of... temptation. So they use the webway. And what that is a pocket dimension that they can travel through. However, once again, those horny Eldar went in there and decided, we're just going to live in here. And they also got really horny and did all the debauchery and all that stuff too. And it was even more amplified in there, which also could have led to the birth of Slaanesh. Long story short, there was a warp that the Eldar made that, Eldar went in to be horny in. And they're like, dude, this was meant for space travel. Stop. And they're just like...
Not every scientific invention has to be to bone.
Yeah. Not everything has to be to get your rocks off, and
the Eldar are like, well, what? No.
That's all right. No way. No.
We can explore each other's pockets in a pocket dimension. It makes perfect sense.
I just imagine there's like continent-wide orgies just going on. Okay, and that is the end of the Warhammer lore that I've obtained.
Sounds pretty baller.
It's baller, and it just makes me so much more excited for Space Marine 2. Makes me excited for other Warhammer games.
Yeah.
Definitely these 2 episodes we pulled a lore boys. The lore boys, they'd be proud of us, I think. I don't know how they do
they're
it.
like, no, we're not.
No, we're not. They're like, you have failed.
You butchered everything.
Yeah. Oh, we probably did. Oh my gosh, yeah. That's like so much information I just unloaded from my brain and just like all over the place.
Finally, it's out.
It's out. It's free. We're free from the Warhammer, the Warhammer lore. I've been listening to the Silmarillion. So whatever that the lore book is.
Mm-hmm. I have it here, and I'm like...
That hurts my brain.
Everybody's like, you're not a real fan unless you read it. I'm like, well, clearly I have to read it. I'm scared to read it.
And I've really found myself really getting into lores of stuff, but even folklores of like cultures. I'm just like super into that right now.
Well, it's so cool. They're so interesting. It's the backstory and the little details that make something so... intricate. At face value, it peters out quick, but there's so much behind it. That's it.
Yeah, it's the like. So recently, I've been playing Ghostwire Tokyo. It's the new game from the people who made the Evil Within, Tango Works, I think it's called. And what it is to boil it down simply, because I really, when I got my paycheck last week, I really, it was a game on my own. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy it, And I've been playing it on and off, and what it is it's like it's a first person kind of action game. I wouldn't really. It's sort of a shooter, but instead of using guns, you use magic, wind magic, fire magic, and water magic, and you shoot a bow and arrow, sometimes two. And what it is this kind of supernatural paranormal event happened in Tokyo, where like everyone was just almost spirited away. No Studio Ghibli pun intended. It's just like, and their clothes are there, but their souls were just like ripped out from the city. And you're going there, and it's like filled with yokai. You're just fighting yokai. And I just think that's super neat and creative, because every game that's come out this year has been a sequel, a remake, something that's already been. And
there
this
hasn't
is
been a lot of original.
And you just wander around Tokyo, and at first, I'm like, all right, this game's pretty cool. It's not scary. You're fighting Slenderman looking dudes. You're fighting all different types of yokai and what's super interesting is like those yokai, or in a lot of cultures, our creation of monsters like that is for an understanding of the unknown. Like, whenever someone saw Bigfoot, it was a guy just dressed around, running around being a goofball. People created this entire mythos and narrative to explain why they saw that. And a lot of times yokai are explanations for like why things break. But also it's in the game structure. I'm just going to throw it out there if anyone's interested. If you're into like the Far Cry games, or in the first few hours you get the narrative, you get the story, and then the open world kind of opens up, and it's just like you have this type of activity, this type of activity, that type of activity, and it gets repetitive, but you find comfort in that repetition. Like, oh, there's a soul gate, I have to go shut it down, I have to clear out all these enemies, then I can shut the soul gate down. You will enjoy it. You will really enjoy that game, because that's what it is, but it's just in a different setting. There's also yokai cat merchants everywhere, and every time you talk to them, they have some kind of cat pun, which is pretty great.
That's kind of what sold me. I was like, I could go either way, and then I'm like, oh, cat merchants who just make stupid cat puns? I'm in. Let's go.
Currently, unfortunately, it's only PS5 and PC. I don't know why it couldn't run on the PS4, though. It might be on PS4, but I don't think so. Let's go to the internet and find out. Dude, I want like a show like Blue's Clues, where they gotta solve something, right? And instead of like using their brain, the guy's just like, I'm just gonna check out my phone.
Just have like a drunk adult version of it.
Like with a beer belly, and like the shirt's like a little too short, and he has like a beer in his hand. It's like,
I can do that. I got... Ah!
I just saw that mic just go fly. Just whoosh.
Sorry for everybody's ears. I almost dropped the mic.
Alright. Consoles? Okay, let me see. Okay, so it's going to have a PS5 exclusivity that will last until 2023.
And then what?
Then it'll go to Xbox.
I mean, yeah, I like that
right here.
model.
It's already slated to go to Xbox. It just, there's a licensing deal, so it's not going to go there until...
See, but I think all exclusives should be that. I don't think there should ever be a full-on, you have to own the system. Just have it be out for like a year or two, and then sell it on the other system.
Yeah.
Everybody wins when you do that. Literally everybody.
Wins. And you know what?
Companies make way more money. It'll be like a resurgence in every game. So guess what? You morons who can't come up with original content, you can just revamp it when it re-releases on that and do some stupid special with it. Yeah. I mean, it's...
like the special edition or complete edition, or... Yeah. You know, they have those editions. My favorite are the Game of the Year editions when the game did not win Game of the Year. Mm-hmm. And you're just like...
But it's not Game of the Year. It's just the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, Game of the Year edition, and yeah. But I want to throw that out there because Ghostwire. It's very. I will warn you though that you're gonna have to read some subtitles. I don't think there's English voice acting, but also I feel like it ruins it. You're in Tokyo. Everyone is obviously Japanese, and then
it gives that a little bit more of a flair.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very interesting, and the story is just so bizarre that I'm just interested to see where it goes. So it's between that, Elden Ring, and Space Marine. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for.
I'm trying to play a little bit more Elden Ring. I haven't had like chunks of time to sit down and focus, but I have started I started as the prisoner.
Prisoner.
So you start with a little bit of magic. I'm gonna try real hard. Sword and shield, still my bread and butter. It's still gonna be my main, but I think a little bit of magic because I'm having. I had way too much trouble with Margit on my first file. I'm like, this isn't right. I know I'm playing the game wrong.
Margit?
I thought it was Margit. Yeah, whatever it is.
It's Margit. Why would you say Margit?
I thought that's how it was pronounced.
He ain't French. I actually don't know if that's a French way.
He's got a cane. He's super religious, and he's trying to act proper, and he's hairy. So
he's more Scottish than anything.
Ooh, I feel like we just offended both. But yeah,
I love all those types of people. Don't think I hate you. Embrace your cultures.
Scottish are awesome. I would love to go to Scotland. I'd get kicked out immediately because I'm not cool enough. But
dude, they just run around and throw those giant poles. Like, that's a sport. They just got up one day and it's like, hey, that's a telephone pole. And the one guy's like, oh, after I eat my haggis, I'm gonna flip that over that fence.
Frat boys don't have anything on the Scottish. They're like, hold me out. I'm gonna pick this tree up and throw. Like, oh my gosh.
And all I can think of is the Scottish man from Samurai Jack. I don't know if you ever saw it. He has a machine gun for a leg.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that, like, the one episode, they had to go save his wife. Mm-hmm. And Jack's like, you're married? It's like, yes. And he's explaining how she's the prettiest lady. And it's literally just a carbon copy of him with long hair and huge tits. And he's like, Jack is carrying her all the way down while, like, he's killing her with the Samurai Jack's such a freaking good show.
I know.
It was just, I remember watching an interview with the guy. It's like, what was your inspiration for Samurai Jack? He's like, I took things I thought were cool in the 80s. The Fifth Element, sci-fi stuff, samurais. That's about it.
That's awesome.
And then that's just how he made it. And I'm glad it was wrapped up, too.
Did it have an ending? I don't remember.
It did. It actually had a 5th season that came out on Adult Swim only because it was super violent. And one of the old jobs I used to work at, I would work with, different types of juveniles. And we watched season 1 through 4 of Samurai Jack. And they're like, oh, dude, season 5's out. I'm like, yeah. But it's Adult Swim, so I'm going to have to watch it, right? And after I watch it, I'm like, I can't show you that. Like, I'm not allowed to show you that. That's even better. So I wrote down all the episode names. And I'm like, just look these up when you get out of here. I'm like, that's the...
Do it when it's not on my watch.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, when you get out of here, like, that's where you find them. It wasn't, like, grotesque or... it was a little grotesque, but it wasn't, like, super sexualized or anything. There were some elements, but they were done tastefully and in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. But I was just like, yeah, I'm not on my watch, but you can watch it whenever you want.
I would highly recommend once you're a little bit older and you're out of here to watch this.
Yeah, exactly. Such a good show. Yeah. So you're going with the magic build. Right now I'm running around with a staff and a sword that's made out of crystal or just a regular sword. I'm too much of... I'm a bitch in these games, so I need a shield. It's too embedded in my thought process and play style. I can't get away from it. But... I'm just trying to have it so I can use magic with the shield. Yes.
I'm highly enjoying the starting spell. You just wave it and it's just a sword appears and just spikes. I'm like, this is awesome. I love it.
I'm at the part right now with the moon goddess where you have to fight her. And
as I've stated, I never even made it past Margit or Margit, whatever he is.
Once I got past Margit, I was like, now I understand why Dark Souls fans cream their pants whenever a game comes out.
It's once you get once you find your playstyle, once you find what you're good at, and you start advancing a little, early in the game is always rough. It is. You have to get past it. But once there is a point where you're like, I got the mechanics, I know what I'm doing, I know roughly where I'm going, and you're like, and I also realize I can't beat him, I gotta leave, I gotta find some way to do it. And Elden Ring is really good at giving you multiple options. Like you said, instead of running circles and leveling up, you can actually enjoy the story while leveling up, then go back. But it's once you have that boss that you couldn't beat and you strike them down, you are just like, I am God. This is my realm.
I own this realm now.
Chaos is mine.
As soon as I beat Margit, I sent a message to my friend, and I was like, I beat Margit. I am now Elden Lord. He's like, and he replies, no, you're not Elden Lord. The game has finally begun. And then I was like, yes, it has. So then I went and beat Godric. Godric is so far one of my favorite fights. He's the grafted guy with all the arms, and I got both his weapons, and the one weapon is just this severed dragon head you slap on your arm.
That's awesome.
I am one level away from being able to wield it. It takes a lot of faith, surprisingly, but it acts as a flamethrower. So I've just been leveling up like I'm ready for this. That's what I'm using. Because I always have a sword in the one hand, but then like I have the staff in the other, or I can switch on the dragon. And once I figured out magic, I wasn't frustrated with the game anymore, because you just have to have certain equipment to use the magic.
Yeah. To use a spell, you have to have a staff. To use faith, you have to have the knuckle whatever thing.
Yeah, the little they're like.
You can get a sword if you're leveling up your faith. You can actually get like a sword made of whatever their spells are. Like it's
made of Jesus.
It's basically, it looks like a wind sword, but it's words. It's just like faith words, and you can get one where it's just. You have to have super high faith to use it, but because it deals faith damage, I believe, destroys enemies.
Maybe I found it.
I found there's two. There's one that's like a fist weapon, but it just extends out into a blade, and then there's one where it's an actual sword.
Okay, because the one I found in the main hall of the round table.
Yeah.
You jump down into that little giant dining room, and there's that one dude there. I
couldn't beat him either.
He took me forever to beat.
Well, he was one I was like, I know I can beat him. I just have to level up first.
So when you jump down there, to the left, there's a room. And you can go in there, and I think you might need one of those sword stone things. But as soon as no, you might not. You might be able to run in there, and there's just an item in a chest, and it looks like what you're describing.
Yeah, I think I did get that one too. But yeah, that one's like, it's labeled as a fist weapon.
So yes, it is. Yeah.
But it extends the blade out. I think the movement set's different. That's the main one. And I think the sword is a little bit higher stats, but
I also found the Glint Beetle helmet, and apparently people have been looking for it, and I accidentally found it. I have no idea where I found it. I was going through my stuff seeing what can I upgrade. I'm like, is that a beetle? So I put the helmet on. It's just like you took a giant scare beetle, you carved out its chest, and just put it on your head. The funniest thing is the wings extend out. When you run, they flop.
That's awesome.
So I've been wearing that around. It does nothing for me. It decreases my stats substantially.
Does it have anything else? Like you get more runes as you fight, or you find
I didn't necessarily look into it that much. I just saw the stat of like, oh, it's making everything worse, but it looks awesome, so I'm going to wear it.
You got it. Sometimes they have stuff like that, but it has some other effect of why you would want it. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's just a cool helmet.
Yeah,
but
sometimes it's just a cool helmet, girl. It's just a good, just cool helmet.
All right, so I think there's really only...
Well, I was going to say, like, wrap up the episode now, and this technically is the last episode of Season 2.
Yep, that's what I was going to... This was episode,
40
of Season 2, yeah.
So I just started this thing, do 40 episodes, and it's a new season in quotation marks.
We'll try to give it a little bit of spice in the next
in the next season.
Give it a little bit of a...
Yeah, I think the spice we'll add is we'll just do a rail of coke every time we record.
I'm down.
Just every time. And then you'll just see like the podcast slowly just fall apart, and just episodes are coming out because we just we didn't want to develop coke addictions. We just did it because
we just wound up in Thailand,
We did it for the fans.
Yeah. The Instagram account goes crazy. They're like, where are you?
The Instagram account, it keeps growing, but a lot of it is bots.
No.
And that's just how it is. But I mean, when you look at the number, you're like, that's impressive. But if you scroll through, you're like, this is all bots.
Hey, it's a number.
It's a number, that's right.
I am not on Instagram. I'm too old. I don't think I'm allowed.
Dude, I barely use it. I use it to post. I use it to throw something out there. And then I just don't drive with the social media like I used to. And I'm just like, if you're here to listen,
we were all just locked inside for 2 years. Everybody's like, no, we want actual human interaction.
Yeah, we want human interaction. I want human touch. Yeah, so wrapping up the last episode of the season.
I have one joke. If you're cool, I wanna end it on this joke. I think it's a great way to end it.
Okay.
All right. So
all right.
It's food related. So
Okay.
I guess first off, I have to make sure. Do you know poutine? Like I think it's like a French or Canadian dish, something, but poutine.
The fries, the cheese curds, and gravy, right?
No, it's poutine. These nuts in your mouth.
God fucking damn, Eric.
Hey, dude, you calm down. It was just a
Get over it.
What?
You're going to piss.